All right, my name is Tanner Ross Gregory. I am Jesus Christ. Today is June the 4th, 2026. Today I'm going to attempt to prove to you that I'm Jesus Christ, as well as each of these key points listed above. All right, so the commands of Moses for people to stone each other to death for various acts such as prostitution or homosexuality, that was a bargain with our primitive urges of violence that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. All right? Jesus Christ's crucifixion was a means by which we were subdued in our willingness to continue proceeding with those violent commands. All right? So in other words, we had evolved past the point of those commands' usefulness. That's what happened in Jesus Christ. I cannot bring myself to do that any longer. All right? Jesus Christ put forward some commands on marriage. Those were a bargain with our primitive urges of sexual dominion that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. All right? So in other words, I can say this woman is my sexual property. I can say this man is my sexual property. In exchange, I will more readily adhere to what you have to say about the government. All right? So what they did to me as Jesus Christ, in order to subdue you in your willingness to continue proceeding with those commands, is that they programmed me to become obsessed with this woman, then made me see her having sex with all these different people for days on end, made me see her getting raped, and then had me running around yelling at people for what they made me see them do. All right, so that's why they call me the beast. It's like two rams butting their head together for sexual dominion and all this. All right, so on December the 4th and December the 15th of 2020, they made me see two separate women pregnant with my son from having had sex with different men. All right, so the date that falls directly in between these dates is December the 10th of 2020. However, because the women were already pregnant when they were revealed to me, and because a woman has her period once a month, and if she misses her period, then she's pregnant, then the date that we're concerned with is November the 10th of 2020. All right, so in the book of Revelation, it says that the dragon was waiting to consume the child the moment that he was born, who would rule over all the world with an iron scepter, but that the archangel Michael took the woman and the baby into the wilderness to be kept safe for 1,260 days. All right, so 9 months from November the 10th of 2020 is August the 10th of 2021, and 1,260 days from August the 10th of 2021 is Inauguration Day of 2024. All right? Okay, so the dragon represents necessary evil. It had already been explained to me during my crucifixion stage, and is cataloged with the events of my crucifixion in my book, that the dragon represents necessary evil. Okay, and so the reason that the dragon represents necessary evil in this situation is because they're saying that it would be a form of necessary evil to kill my son before he could inherit all of the power that I will receive to rule over this world as king. Okay, they actually did have me anoint my head with oil during the crucifixion stage, which after, reading through the Old Testament, I come to find out that means that I'm going to be king at some point, okay? But I'm not just going to rule over you as king or anything like that. Myself and the alien intelligence worked for a period of a year to a year and a half to develop a new, libertarian, much improved, elaborate constitution. And I put it together with artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence had some pretty good ideas as well, okay? But that's what that means, okay? Now, the 1,260 days sounds like a countdown, so you might be asking yourself, what is this a countdown to? All right, so in the book of Revelation, it says that the Gentiles were allowed to march on the holy city for 42 months, but they've been assigned to the outer court. The first beast rules for 42 months as well, and then the false prophet comes immediately after that, who makes miracles of fire come out of the sky in full view of the people, okay? So what does this mean? It means that we're in that 42-month time frame right now, and what it means is that at the end of that time frame, a certain group of people is going to have to leave, and if they don't leave, they're going to be killed with airstrikes. And what it means is that anyone who is not Caucasian has to leave the United States. And so the reason that it's like that is because the way that they guided the white people's evolution. That's why we have white skin, is because they took us all the way up to the Arctic poles where it's dark most of the time, and so we had to evolve and adapt in a frigid, foreboding environment. And so we naturally are evolved to adhere to sensible, systems of government. And we have to be pointed in the right direction a little bit, but once we're pointed in the right direction, then we go in that direction, okay? Okay, so, but in addition to this, there's an additional prophecy that has to do with the way that the 5 months that Noah spent in his ark correlates with the 5 months of scorpion stings in the book of Revelation. And so what it means is that, and the government had already figured this out, was that if I'm arrested, because the 5 months of scorpion stings is symbolic of the 5 months that I spent in Wise County Jail in 2021. And so that's why they say, they have breastplates of iron, they have this golden tassel around their head, they have a stinger on their hip, their wings sound like the thundering of many thunders and all this kind of stuff. They're talking about police officers, but essentially what it means is that, and the government figured this out already, they had me start sending out messages that were saying, angering people. I was sending out people in the mass media and some people in the alternative media as well, messages just because I'm Jesus Christ so they could figure out what's going on. But I let them know that I've been receiving these messages for like a month to a month and a half, angering people. And what it was that they were getting those messages on their side, which basically just meant that they needed to anger people in California, because what they wanted to do is to use nuclear weapons on the state of California due to the fact that there being so many minorities. Airstrikes wouldn't really be practical. But as well, once they got me out there was a lot of stuff about Pizzagate and different things like sex trafficking of children, that basically means they want the use of nuclear weapons to as well represent divine intervention and divine righteous anger. You know what I mean? Because that's what they did in Egypt. They came in, they said, free the slaves or else we're going to do all these plagues and everything. And after they got done doing all the plagues, then they came in with this elaborate new system of government, thousands of new laws and all this kind of thing. And so the point of it is to galvanize society around this new system of government. And that's what they want to get out of nuking California, which I think they probably would have had to do that anyways. But what they did was to stage a sex trafficking situation. The aliens led me to believe that there was this woman, she's in this dire sex trafficking situation, then brought me all the way out to California and was leading me around all these different areas where I later come to find out, oh shit, there's actually real sex trafficking going on right here. People with tape over the license plates, and to obscure the numbers, is like clear packing tape. It'll just obscure the numbers just enough. But it was like, wow, you're just parked right outside like that. And they were bringing this woman around me. I think the government basically infiltrated this whole sex trafficking operation. Probably they may have actually been operating it themselves on some level, So, but either way, they came in and they would bring this woman into the room next to me, and then there was all this screaming at her and all this crying. They were driving these brand new BMW sports cars, just maxed out, like a badass, brand new BMW sports car, and was working a situation with the management of the fucking motel to have us situated in rooms next to each other. And there was just so much stuff about pizza. And if you don't know what Pizzagate is, it's the organized trafficking of child sex trafficking that's organized. And they basically found out that this was going on all the way to the very heights of government, on the Democrat side primarily. But yeah, they hacked their emails and found out that all these people are involved in child sex trafficking. They had people in charge of human trafficking doing, who was involved with it. They had people in charge of the Amber Alert system who was in charge of it. But the main thing, what I'm trying to say, is that they were driving me around so many different places. Like, go to this pizza restaurant that's green and purple once you get there. And then I would go there and it was like green and purple. It's just, and then just pizza, talking about pizza all day. So it's for sure what they want, to nuke California. I just want to make sure you understand this. Nuke California. Kill everyone. Everyone who doesn't get out in time. Everybody. The whole fucking state. And this is actually going on, and people don't fucking know that, okay? So, but but there's an additional prophecy that has to do with the suicide boys, who are the 2 olive trees from the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, it says that the 2 olive trees will prophesy for 1,260 days, okay? And so I had informed them that they had this role to play in it. But they released an album called The Long-Term Effects of Suffering on August the 13th of 2021. And 1,260 days from that date is 3 days after Inauguration Day. Okay, so I believed that there was going to be martial law and all these cops are going to be getting round up and it's going to be a crazy situation. And it's going to be martial law and all of it, you know. So, but for about a month prior to this, I just worked on the book every single day, day and night. I only slept every other night for a period of a month to 2 months, just trying to get this book finished. And then once it was finalized, then I immediately began sending out to all these churches and all these church members, thousands of them. For 3 days, I sent out these emails. And my main concern was that, you know, informing them of what's going on. Well, 3 days after Inauguration Day came and went. And so I started to look into the Old Testament where the 2 olive trees were first mentioned. And it talks about this, you know, the final capstone in the hand of Zerubbabel. And it talks about this flying scroll. And so what I came to find out was that the prophecy was that by 3 days after Inauguration Day, a finished, you know, book would be sent out to all these people, the flying scroll, and that would set a series of events in motion that would end result in the police going to jail, you know, assumingly, you know, because of what they've done with the war on drugs and the criminalization of prostitution and all this thing. But, you know, just as well, I mean, it is another thing where they're taking vengeance on people who have wronged us. They're displaying, you know, righteous indignation and divine retribution. And so the cops have screwed up really bad. But I mean, most of them probably aren't really that intelligent. In fact, they vet them out for just to make sure that they have low intelligence quotients. They used to do that. I don't know if they're still doing that. But I mean, it's at least a decent chance that they have no fucking idea the amount of damage that they're doing to this fucking country. But I just don't think it's really about, you know, anything less than the display of divine retribution in order to galvanize the public around this new constitution, you know. I will tell you this, what they said to me is that they're going to leave it in my hands. Literally, they're not going to tell me what to do. They're just going to leave it up to me. And I'm basically trying to get them a fair deal, you know, not like I don't want these people locked up and throw away the fucking key or anything like that. It's just over the top. Now, do they deserve it? They probably deserve to be shot, if you really want to be fucking honest. You know what I mean? So maybe I won't go so easy on them, but the older I get, the more I just sit around, you know, with my, you know, grinding my axe, you know, sharpening my axe for all the people that have done me wrong in life. When I was younger, I would have fucking thrown their lives away or had them killed. But at this point, I'm 41 years old, and I don't know how to really explain it, but it just feels comfortable for me just not to necessarily go out and try to offend power like I used to. Like, I don't even want to, you know what I mean? So, but anyway.